Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we'll be talking about what are the 5 books you have to get started with in 2023 if you haven't started reading yet. So in today's video, we'll be talking about why you have to get started with the reading habit in the first place. And second, we are going to talk about the difference between fiction and non-fiction and how you can get started with either you have to start with the fiction or you have to get started with the non-fiction. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And finally, we're going to talk about the top 5 recommendations from my side and how this book will impact your life in a significant way, and we're going to do that everything. Let's get started. So first I'm going to talk about why hard to read the books in the first place, right? So let's take any non-fiction books. I'm a huge fan of fiction. I less very fiction books, and I read a lot of non-fiction books. Fiction is very important. I really understand that to improve your creativity and stuff, but non-fiction is more actionable. So I read a lot of non-fiction books. So if you take any non-fiction books, okay, so the book is actually a life of an author. If you take that particular book, the entire life, the author has, break their heads to find meaningful solutions for that particular problem. And they compiled every knowledge on each and every bit of it in a book format. And they are actually transferring that knowledge to the next generations, So the greatest way to find a book and solid book to read through is actually the books are very old. Like, so let's say I will tell you, like I walk you through this book. This is actually from Adam Smith, The Wealth of Nations. This is actually 150 years old book. So this is the whole base of the model capitalism. So if you want to know more about the economics, how the capitalism works and all those stuff, this Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations is the base one. So after that, after this book, there are plenty of books has been written about economics, but this is the base. So you have to get started. So more and more the book is older, the more and more it's worth to read. So the only justification I have to give it to you is actually the knowledge is abundant, right? So all the books has been written, all the knowledges are available. Only thing is you have to have this mentality to adapt that, learn that, and internalize it and improve yourself. That's the only intention. That's why you have to start reading with books. So I can totally understand if you're very new to reading books, you haven't started anything yet, I will recommend you to start with fiction because a lot of people asking me like either I have to start with fiction or non-fiction, where I can start with. If you start with non-fiction books like Atomic Habits or Almanac of Ravikant, like it's actually it's very hard to distill because soon you will get bored. And my recommendation is that you should not start like, as Naval Ravikant says, read what you love until you love to read. In that sense, fiction is the best way to start with. You can start with any fiction books. The first book I started reading is actually Chetan Bhagat's One Indian Girl. So honestly, I didn't like it. So then I move on to different fiction books. And finally, I find this Leo Tolstoy's The Great Short Stories. And this is amazing. Why I love this book is actually, one thing is the depth of, when you tell story, there should be some depth to it, right? So each and every stories that written by Leo Tolstoy, this is actually a translation. Leo Tolstoy is actually a Russian. So one great thing about Leo Tolstoy is that you will become that lead character. Actually, when you're reading the book, you will get into the shoes of that particular person and you will empathize a lot. And a few stories will definitely make you cry actually, because a lot of details will be there in that particular story. So that's why Leo Tolstoy, I recommend Leo Tolstoy. It's very powerful if you are starting with the fiction books. So read fiction books and slowly you will move on to the non-fiction books. So let's get into the non-fiction recommendations that I am talking about. The first and foremost book is actually Atomic Habits by James Clear. So basically this book is all about building good habits and breaking bad ones. And he talks about how 1% of improvement daily will lead you to the different pathways. He talks about the whole habit compounding part. Put on the efforts to improve 1% every day, and you will see a significant result in the 365 days end of the year. So he also talks about how to create new habits. The 4 steps he talks about is that cue, craving, reward, and response. So practical way to implement one habit, and breaking the bad ones is the second thing. He also talks about how to create identity for yourself by creating a lot of habits. So basically he starts with the tiny habits, why tiny habits makes a big difference, and he get into the 4 laws he's talking about. As I said, make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, make it satisfying. So these are the 4 steps that he's talking about how to create a quality habits, and how you have to stick with the habit for a long time. So this book is very much helpful for those who are actually thinking about creating a lot of good habits. So I read this book around 4 to 5 times now. This is a solid book. Any books I would recommend, don't read books for completion. Reading a book for completion is actually a vanity metric, right? It doesn't matter that how many books you read, the 1,000 books you're reading or 500 books you're reading. End of the day, if you don't know anything about that book, or if you didn't apply anything to improve your life to the next level, it doesn't matter how many books you read. So be very careful about picking the books, and anything which stands for long time, it's quality. I already said you that. So this book is actually a quality book. You should get started with Atomic Habits. I will highly recommend, because I read this book 4 to 5 times. Personally, it helped me a lot to do with in my work and in my personal lifestyle and all those stuff. So this is a solid recommendation, the first book, Atomic Habits. The second book I have to talk about is the Almanac of Naval Ravikant by Eric Jorgensen. So this is actually a solid book. So I'm not sure how many of you know Naval Ravikant. Naval Ravikant is a very famous person, very famous icon in the Silicon Valley. So he started from India. He born in Delhi, and later he went to US and with his mom. He grew up there. So in his childhood, he filled up himself with books. So he basically talks about 3 things. One is, any man you take, any person you take in this world, they want 3 things very necessarily. Like one is the health, second one is the wealth, and third one is the happiness. So basically he talks about the 2 ideas. One is the wealth creation part, and another one is the happiness. So a lot of other people are actually very good in talking about health. So he neglected that part. So basically first part is all about, the book is split into 2 parts. The first part is all about ethical wealth creation. If you pick the right thing and put the right leverage into it, if you work on the right stuff, within 10 years the ethical wealth creation is possible. That's what he argues about in this book. So he did the couple of podcasts, and Eric Johansson picked the quality stuff in that particular podcast. Is actually a translation, I would say. The entire book is all about the tweet storm. He wrote about 30 to 35 tweets, and it got very popular. And after that he did the podcast, and later this book. So this is actually a solid stuff. First is ethical wealth creation. Pick the right thing with the right leverage. You will get wealthy in 10 years. The second part he talks about is all about the happiness, and why you have to be happy, why you should not connect the money with the happiness, and happiness is just a state of mind, how you have to tune yourself into happiness and all those stuff. It's very, very surprising. Like a lot of people in Silicon Valley too surprised about it, because it's very balanced. Naval Ravikant life is very balanced. He has a very clear mentality about how to build wealth and also happiness, right? So he's actually a philosopher. So Naval Ravikant has actually made a huge impact in my life. The whatever things that I'm doing right now was actually from Naval Ravikant's insights. So it's a pretty solid book about wealth and happiness. So if you are a person who is looking to become wealthy in 10 years, ethically, though this is the right guide, actually I would say, follow these steps that recommended by Naval, you will get it. You will become wealthy in 10 years. So pretty solid stuff. I will highly recommend this book, Almanac of Naval Ravikant by Eric. I also given all the book link in the description. You guys can check it out to buy one. And moving on to the third book that we are talking about is The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. So this book is actually it's not a guide to build wealth. Rather, this book is all about the behavior, how you have to behave with the money in the first place, right? So how psychologically you have to prepare yourself to build wealth and also maintain wealth, and what are the traps you should not get into and all those stuff. So basically Morgan talks about different lessons he learned over the period of time, and also he talks about a lot of analogy, how they Warren Buffett built his wealth using the power of compound interest, and why you have to save money in the first place. And so he also talks about how to have this mentality of saying no to certain things and all those stuff. So it's a pretty solid book about the lessons on wealth, greed and happiness. So 8 key lessons I learned about the psychology of money. I also did a detailed book summary few days back. I will link it over here. You guys can check it out. So moving on to the fourth book is actually Show Your Work by Austin Kleon. This is actually a pretty nice book. I read this book back in 2018, I guess. So this is actually talks about the 10 ways to share your creativity and get discovered. So what are the things I'm doing right now? Starting the YouTube channel and sharing the knowledge that I have is actually from this book. So after I reading this book, I taken a lot of initiatives. So back then I started a blog. I started a community page. I also started this knowledge sharing activities. I used to share stuff with my friends and share stuff with my family and all those people. Only because of this book. This book made a huge impact in my career and personally. So basically it talks about Austin Kleon talks about you don't have to be genius to share something, right? So just be a person who shares random stuff. And why you have to share something small every day on the internet. So he also talks about the power of storytelling and how you have to sell out certain stuff. So this book is actually a complete wrap up of how to project yourself, how to build yourself as a personal brand. This is actually very basic book of building a personal brand, I would say. So he also wrote other couple of books. One is the Steal Like an Artist and another one is Keep Going. I already did a book summary of Steal Like an Artist. I will link it over here. This is actually a super good stuff, how artists actually used to steal from others and copy from others, the power of copying, I would say. I did this book summary a few days or weeks back. I will link it over here. And soon I will do the book summaries of both the book Keep Going and Show Your Work for sure. And I will link all this book recommendation in the description as well. So coming to the last book recommendation is Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari, A Brief History of Humankind. This is actually a the book very close to my heart, actually, I would say. Because of this book is going to be there for another at least for another 200 or 300 or 500 years, I would say. What we have seen in this Adam Smith Wealth of Nations, over 150 years actually it's standing right now, and this book will stand in the future, because this is actually a history book written by the history professor, but it's not anything, it won't sound like in history actually. I brought this book, the color edition. It's actually a special edition. I brought this from Sapna Book House, Coimbatore. If you guys staying in Tamil Nadu, Coimbatore, I brought this book. You can also buy it over online. So I will also link the description below. So basically this book talks about the human history, like 13.5 billion years of history, like where we started after the Big Bang, how it slowly evolved, and there is a timeline over here. I will actually give it a short version of it. 13.5 years, that's where the beginning of physics, atoms and molecules and chemistry appears and formed. 2 million years back, humans spreads from Africa to Eurasia. So 30,000 years back, extinction of Neanderthal. So there are other different species. We used to have other 5 different species with us. We are Homo sapiens. We do have Neanderthals, Homo erectors and all those people. I will show you the picture of them. This will be like, so this is actually another breed called Homo Neanderthals. You can see the different faces. Like, so there are other few theories around the extinction of other 5 species. Like, it's there in the book. It's very interesting. You guys can read it. So 12,000 years back, the agricultural revolution happens. 5,000 years back, the first kingdom, the script and money born. 2,500 years back, the Buddhism happened in India. So 500 years back, the scientific revolution happened. If you take the entire timeline of the history, we are very new to this science actually. We are just 500 years old of scientific revolution. And 200 years back, the industrial revolution happens. And we are actually slowly moving from the industrial revolution to the entrepreneurial revolution now. In this digital era, after the 2001, we are actually moving from there is a huge transition happening between the industrial revolution and entrepreneurial revolution. And he also talks about the present human transactions and the boundaries of planet Earth. He also talks about the future of intelligent design becomes the basic principle of life. So he put a question mark over there and he stops there. The entire book talks about the past and the present life. So Yuval Noah Harari wrote another book called the Homo Deus. This book talks about the brief history of tomorrow. You guys can see like genetically modified babies and all those stuff. This is the future. I haven't read this book. I will read this and I will put a summary in the future. But this book is actually a solid stuff I heard from my friends. So in my perspective, everyone, no matter if you're reading this book completely or you're actually going through certain phases, everyone should own this book. Every home, every person, at least people should own one book in their home. I highly recommend this book because this book teaches a very basic principle. Like if you take the history, nobody is going to remember us. Couple of generations past, nobody is going to remember us. That's the whole thing. And how you're going to interpret this life is up to completely you. You're going to stick with the basic dogma of life, or you want to create your own stuff, or sharing with people, sharing happiness with people, or trying to do meaningful things in your life. This book gives the whole wisdom of it. So that's why I love this book, and I will highly recommend this book to everyone. And that's it about the book recommendation of 2023. If you guys haven't seen my other book summaries, I will link it up over here. And if you guys like this video, please do share it with your friends and kindly subscribe to Readers Nuggets. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, take care. Bye. Signing off, AK.